All right. Welcome to Vegan Collective Intelligence meeting number 29. Um, Tonight, we don't really have an agenda plan, but I was thinking we open it up and let things happen naturally and see what happens that way. And um, yeah, that's how we'll do it today. If anyone has anything they'd like to start out with, I think we have a couple things to mention, but nothing urgent.
Yeah, I have some updates to do. Okay, so we've been talking to the producer of Endgame 2050, Sophia Ochoa. So she's going to be joining Basecamp. And the sequel, so it may not be a sequel to Endgame, but we call it New Game 2050. Okay, so this is the, but New Game is apparently an Avengers movie or something, and so if you do search for New Game, you'll never get anywhere near the top if you use that name. So maybe just Vegan World 2026. Maybe that's the name, right? But, so I don't know if you've all watched Endgame 2050. So you know how it is done with Sophia and Moby on two sides. So you need to, watch that because she's covered a lot of potential, a lot of problems that are on Earth right now. And so she's imagining what would happen if you don't address those problems until 2050. So it's a pretty dystopian movie. So it talks about how people are, getting one meal a day in 2050, and they hardly have enough oxygen to breathe, and all kinds of things like that. Okay, so it's a pretty dystopian view of what's going to happen. That assumes that we're not changing, right? That we are going to continue doing what we're doing. So. So we've been talking to her saying, with the alternate version, because basically we are telling a story in which we are going to change. Right? We are going to change by 2026. And it's inevitable we're going to change. We are already in the chrysalis phase. So why would we look back and say we're going to go back being a caterpillar again, right? So it's a story in which it's really not, the opposite is not utopia. The opposite is something that's working. It's a working, thriving civilization, right? So that's the story we are working on now. So that she wants to be part of too. And so we are going to form a task force on Basecamp to do basically 10 to 12 minute vignettes, where we first talk about the overall story, about what happened in 2050. That we are thriving, so we're going to show these, beautiful forests and things are thriving, and people are eating good food. We'll show that and say, how did we get here? And then we talk about the new story, and what did we each do? So then we'll talk about the app, the K-Mama app, and the app that Arvind is working on, the Enviro app. So we talk about that's how we reforested. This is how we brought back food. We built our new system on a foundation of healthy food. Then people got healthy, and then we created. So then we have an opportunity to talk about every study group and task force on Basecamp as a 10 to 12 minute vignette, okay, as a short documentary that we can then put together later, and say this is our vision for 2050, a thriving world in 2050. And so we will have Kimaya narrating role of Moby. So she'll be saying, this is how grandpa, and I made him do this, I told him to do his job. So all this stuff, right? She'll say that. And then we'll have an older version of Kimaya in 2050, who is talking about how the progression that she saw. And then she'll be the one saying, this is what they did. This is the app they did. And this is what happened. And so, and the older version of Kimaya is, I don't know if you met her, Nivi Jaswal. You saw that? You saw her? She was there in the Aquarius meeting yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
She was awesome.
She was great.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah. Because I saw her and I said Kimaya 2050 right away, because she has the same round face and same tone of skin, and uh, and she was born in 1980. That's what struck me, because when Victoria Moran told me to go watch her video podcast. Okay, she said watch the podcast that I did with Nivi, because she's a force of nature. You need to talk to her. And someone recommends, I say yes, and then I forget about it and I move on, right? And then someone else sends me an email, Kimaya's principal actually, out of the blue, saying, "Did you know that your name was mentioned in this podcast?" And I said, "Really?" And I looked at it, and it was the podcast with Nivi. It was the same podcast that Victoria had asked me to watch. And so I started listening to it. Okay, I started listening to it, and I expected Victoria to have mentioned my name, but it was actually Nivi who mentioned my name. Okay? And she was talking about, yeah, Dr. Rao talks about this new game, and he's exactly right. This is the way it should be. So anyway, I realized that, and then she mentioned that she was born in the year 1980. And I had been talking to Sophia about New Game 2050, which was about someone at the age that Kimaya would be 40 years old. And I was thinking of actresses who would be 40 years old who could play that role. And, and then I said, oh, 1980, my God, this is exactly 30 years before Kimaya. Oh man, so 2020 plus 30 is 2050. Okay. So then I went to LinkedIn to look her up, and I saw her face and I said, that's Kimaya. That's Kimaya, 40 years old. That's the way she would look like. So anyway, I called her up. I connected with her, and we've been talking. And she's a marketing expert.
Awesome.
Who used to work for Unilever. Unilever is the West Point of marketing. They know how to get people to change their minds. So, and now she wants to do the opposite. She wants to get people to come to the vegan bandwagon. So she's joined Basecamp, and so she's going to be part of this task force too. And so we've been brainstorming with Sophia. Right? I was in a meeting with her just before this. So we want to form that task force on Basecamp, and invite Kip and Keegan to join, and all the people that we have on Basecamp who are idle right now, but we want them to start telling these stories. So it may be different people directing different vignettes, right? So we are thinking of 10 to 12-minute vignettes for each. So it also gives an opportunity for every task force to come up to speed and to say, this is how we imagine this would happen in the future. So it becomes like a theme for Vegan World 2026. It's like a proposal, like we used to do proposals at the IEEE, right? So I see what's happening on Basecamp, and I'm reminded of IEEE 1997. This is exactly where we were in IEEE in 1997, where there were proposals that we were coming up with, and we were trying to figure out how to. We knew it could be done, just like we know a vegan world by 2026 can be done. People have to just eat this instead of that, wear this instead of that. It's not a big deal, right? We know what needs to be done. So, it's exactly like what was happening in the IEEE in 1997 when we were working on the internet, and I see it blossoming out into a vegan world by 2026. And then, of course, just like what happened in the internet, you'll have, instead of people saying, "Who needs this?" people are now on Zoom talking to each other all across the world, right? Which is what we had imagined actually would happen. So in 2050, then we'll be looking back and saying, okay, this is how now we have this, we are teaching children this way. And this is what happened in 2026, 2020 to make this happen. And so on. So it gives us a way to tell a new story, right? And a new game. So I am offering it as a flagship project for Vegan World 2026 Basecamp. Okay, it should be the flagship project. And so it's our storytelling project. And it's a way to recruit vegans to come on board and join Basecamp and help us flesh it all out. And it's also a way to get people who are not looking at veganism seriously to start looking at it seriously. Because this is the only way out, you know. We discussed this yesterday on Monday. Oh yeah, Monday is yesterday, isn't it? Yeah, we discussed it yesterday at the dairy summit, right? And basically, there is no other way out. We have to go vegan for the world to get out of this mess that we are in.
Jamie, did you have your hand up?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Well, first, a couple things. One, I want to offer a change of pronunciation for your name, Benjamin, with this new format where it's kind of flowing more and less directing of traffic. Call it Benjamin. And second, with yeah, and then the joke is, hey, why does Ben have that big smile on his face? Benjamin. He's been jamming. Okay. Anyway, so next is I love everything you're saying, Silas, and I just got two things to add real quick. One is in 2050, in those scenes where people are flying by on their flying bicycles, have someone go bling bling. Hey, K-Mama. Let that continue to be her name, K-Mama. Another, whoa, hey, what's up? And she's just like this hip, cool New Yorker, cruising through Central Park. Hey, it's K-Mama, right? And that's going to be powerful. And then another thing. So let's say K-Mama's in a meeting there in Manhattan and she's scratching her head and they're saying, well, gee, how did they do it back then? And then she thinks back and she says, how did I do it back then? And then the screen goes fuzzy with waves. And then boom, it's 2020 and K-Mama's 10 years old, chopping up eggplants with her grandpa or whatever. And she's like, you know what, Grandpa? It just occurred to me, we could tell a new story that da-da-da-da-da, and then poof, that like teleports back to Manhattan 30 years later. She's like, I've got it. In fact, this is an idea I had when I was 10 years old. And it's just like the back and forth. People are just going to be transfixed. The connection, right? It's almost like the connection between, two Chinese women in that movie. What was it called? Not like water for chocolate, but like tofu for soup or whatever. But anyway, it's, these Chinese women of different generations that are communicating telepathically over time or whatever. Anyway, it could be like that. People are going to gobble it up. I promise you. Go on unmute. Thank you.
Thanks, Javan. You need to really connect with Nivi. She's a lot. I mean, in the same league. Okay, she's a marketing expert.
I think we were separated at birth, so that makes me Kamaya's brother. But anyway, we've definitely got to connect because I'm telling you, I think this is the platform. This is it, really. And the fact that K-Mama is a real life person, right. She's the next Greta. She's Greta reloaded, all right. She's Greta who's not ashamed of being vegan. Yeah, she says it publicly. It's Greta reloaded. Greta Unchained. How do you say K-Mama in Swedish? Greta Unchained.
So put a video out. You want to watch that?
Oh yeah, I got to enable you to share. I got security on. Okay, now I've enabled sharing. By the way, so that's why you couldn't share earlier. I just clicked that for security reasons. But now it's enabled. Go ahead, Silas.
Oh, I can share. Okay. My link seems to be very slow. So, Jamin, would you like to share that?
Yeah. I got high bandwidth. Go ahead. I'll share. You want to just give me the link?
Yeah, it's right there on chat.
Oh, wait. Is that the one that So put there?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't make that. Okay, here we go. All right. Just give me a minute to pull it up. Okay, I see it's 53 minutes long. Food Rebellion. Homemade vegan yum burger. All right, let me do the share properly now. Muting myself and just jump in
Jamin,
anytime you want me to. Yeah,
Jamin,
yes, so.
it's 10 minutes, 10 minutes
Oh,
in.
okay, so I'll go 10 minutes in, and anyway, just feel free to narrate for me. Go and unmute.
Are you trying it out? I hope that you are cooking with us, and please let us know if you ever tried something like this, or if you're cooking with us tonight. We'd love to know.
Yeah, how it goes would be beautiful. So out of interest, are you using this?
Not really.
Can I use it?
Please do,
I need
yes.
to use it. So this was just water, so I'm just going to wash it out.
So there is a comment from he or she says, I'm sorry, I can't say for sure, might be good to do what the Hare Krishnas do and take it in the carts on a bike to feed the BLM protesters. That way you link the movement and simultaneously do plant-based outreach. That is actually a really poignant comment, isn't it?
Very much so.
Very much so. And yeah, should we just address what's happening in London? Oh, a lot is happening in London anyway, and around the world, and in America as well. So if you guys follow the news, you're probably aware of the very tragic death of this gentleman called George Floyd. And there's a lot of stuff happening in the UK and around the world.
So that was it basically.
Okay, sure. Very good. Very good. Awesome. So good stuff.
So that thought came up during our conversations. I just remembered the Hare Krishnas do that all the time, outreach at all the demonstrations. And we've got a demonstration tomorrow, which I'm going to, and it's in Hyde Park, so you'll be able to do social distancing. After that comment, I added a little bit. I said, look, you could social distance by putting out a table, putting the portions on the table. And then I felt a bit guilty because I thought, okay, I'm telling them to do it. Why don't I do it? And then, so I said, what I would do is I would print out the recipe, and with the link to their vid, and if they were willing to do it, because I think they get a bit of funding from Extinction Rebellion, so they could make it easier than I could make it happen on my own. And if so, that way I could contribute because I'm going. But we talked about this as part of this, and you, Silesh, had just got on with it. Like feed the world. Okay, let's start with 3 people. So it's that kind of thing. But also, Extinction Rebellion have got quite a big problem of being too white and too posh. Do you use the word posh over there? It's got a real problem. So this is the end of that problem as well. Just feed the movement.
Right. What we used to do for feeding the homeless, we used to make these burritos. So everyone brings whatever they can. So we used to take chopped vegetables. Some people used to bring beans, cooked beans. So we had a combination of things. There was all whole foods. Basically, if you have whole wheat tortillas and beans and vegetables, they're all whole foods. And we put it together into a burrito, and then you wrap it with just paper and give it to people. Then it's something that they hold, and they already have the paper next with it, so that they can use that for their.
Yeah, that's good. So it comes with its own packet.
Exactly, it comes with its own packet, and it comes with its own napkin too, right?
Yeah, It come with the Hare Krishnas. What they do, they have a bike with a cart on the back, and they have 2 huge pots in that bike box, and one pot is full of dal, and it's hot because they give it to all the students who can't afford to eat in central London. They do it for the homeless, and the other pot is full of rice usually. And on top of that, they might have flapjacks or something like that, and they just feed until the end. And presumably, somebody comes along and brings a fresh pot who's in a kitchen nearby, you know, if it runs out. They've been doing that for years, so they don't sort of push the it's plant-based. Everybody knows it's plant-based. They just feed the plant-based. So I suggested later on to Dora. Dora was very active in Animal Rebellion as part of Extinction Rebellion, where all the vegans joined up with Extinction Rebellion, and she was very active as an organizer. But I suggested like something like couscous and ratatouille, you know, a mass. It could be whatever is available really in terms of vegetables. But and you can have plates. But like you say, if you've got a little packet of the wrap, that solves the plates and all that. It's already done. It takes a bit more work. That's the only thing, you know, the actual cooking.
We became pretty good at making those burritos, you know. I mean, after a while you become an expert at it.
You know, in England, in Cornwall, there's a famous pie called a Cornish pasty, and the tin miners from hundreds of years ago used to, that they weren't meant to eat the pastry. It was just the pastry was a way of casing the dinner. So there would be the dinner in one side of the pasty, and the pudding would be in the other side of the pasty, and they take that to work, a massive Cornish pasty, you know, as big as your face, Silesh. That's how big a pasty was back in the day.
I remember eating Cornish pasties when I was in England. They're quite the treat, and it was recommended to me to find one at a nearby gas station because they're apparently the best in the town or something like that. It was very strange, but
and did you like it? Did you like it, Benjamin?
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was perfectly portable piece of food.
What is the filling that it's?
Basically, it's like a well, they make it with meat, but you can do a vegetable Cornish pasty as well. It's like a stew, you know, like a vegetable stew. You can buy the vegetarian ones now and the meat ones, but back in the day it was meat. But I'm sure poor people didn't eat meat; they couldn't afford to eat meat. So it's probably a vegetable stew in one side, and then say you have a big round piece of pastry. You put all the stew in one side, and the pudding, like apple pie, in the other side, or stewed apple. Then you fold over the circle, and then you pinch it with your fingers, you know, and it kind of pinches, makes a pattern, and then you bake it, and then the tin miner takes it off down the line.
Wow, you know, another really good portable, easily foldable food like that is the Salvadoran pupusa. So imagine, like a very thick and smaller diameter tortilla, but thick, like could be like a centimeter thick or something like that, or more, filled with beans or filled with vegetables, for example, right? That's kind of the staple Salvadoran food, pupusa.
Yeah, we can also do that with the pita bread too. Pita pockets, yeah. Oh wow, Kelly.
Hey, Ray, Kelly.
Speaking of people who make food.
Yes, I actually am doing an event this weekend. There's 2 organizations in Toronto, Plant-Based Revolution and Compassion on the Streets, and I'll be making 60 meals for them to give out to the homeless. And so they raise money, and then whatever they raise will be, we'll know how many to make food for. So I'll be doing 60 this weekend. Yeah, so I'm going to be working with, there's this really amazing vegan cheese company here. And they donated so much. They're just really fantastic. So I'm going to be using their cheese and give them some business and exposure as well. So I'm making a vegan chicken parm with salad and a vegan s'mores cookie. So like comfort food, they said, unfortunately, they're sort of they're not used to eating, like some of the other companies have been, doing some sort of fancy dishes, and they're like, they're kind of used to eating fried stuff. So kind of find like a happy medium of, like still healthier, but like, something that they're going to be like, what is this? I don't want this.
Yeah. What we found out when we were making these burritos, the chopped veggies were all different colors. So we had different color veggies. We had peppers and, and I would add some apples too. So that gives it the...
we're getting an echo from you, Ray and Kelly.
Yeah. So, and the beans were the base.
Still getting the echo, Ray. You need to mute, please.
Okay. And initially, when we gave it to the homeless, they were like, what is this? I said, okay, yeah, you give me one, I'll take it because it's free. The next time, or second time, third time we went, they were asking for 2. They were asking for 3. They wanted more because it has this nice combination of flavors. You need nothing. You don't need any sauce, nothing. Just fresh cut veggies with some apples and some sweet veggies and sour veggies and beans. There was no salt either. And it was just wrapped in a tortilla. Okay? But real food, it does taste really good, when you eat it. And then we got them hooked on it, and they wanted more of it.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm not sure how they target it here. Like if they go to different areas in Toronto, if they're feeding the same people. So then I think like that would be really good, where it's like, like you said, you get them, like sort of used to eating healthier, right? And then they want it, right?
Is it still echoing?
Jamin, is it still echoing?
Yeah, you've got some weird audio going on over there, even when it's just you guys. And if you go over to the microphone thing, you can select a microphone. Sometimes it has a different one than what you'd think.
Sometimes external speakers cause the feedback as well, like with the mics.
Just let us know when we start talking again if you're still hearing it.
That's good. Now you're clear. Kelly, thank you.
So we were talking about doing the same kind of food distribution to people who are protesting. So giving them vegan, good vegan food like that. So are there protests going on in Toronto at the moment?
I don't think it's regular, but we did have one earlier this week. Yeah, because we actually have an instance that happened here with someone who was a person of color. And the police were answering a distress call, and we don't know what happened, but she fell out of her balcony window and died. So they're protesting on top of everything else, like the fact that, what, if any, was the police's involvement in her death, right? Because her mother called the police to take her to a local, it's called CAMH, it's a mental health facility, because she was under distress. Apparently she needed to use the washroom. And so the police escorted her back into her apartment. And it was during this time something happened and she fell to her death. So they've been protesting that, obviously, as well as everything else that's going on.
Also, we had a very good meeting for Aquarius. We had 2 meetings. One was the meeting with the modeling team. So Pareen was there, and Santiago was there. So Santiago is creating a mathematical model for Aquarius, and how we could calculate the actual cost in terms of a multidimensional vector, so of different things, because we have to account for what our impact is on the planet, right? So we were talking about what should we be measuring, and how do we do the mapping, and then how do we monitor the entropy that changes in a product. So when you take a product, when you take metal and turn it into a vessel, right, you're changing the entropy of that. And so then when you recycle it, you're not going to get the same amount of metal you started with, because it keeps decreasing at every recycling cycle that you go through. So you have to monitor all that, measure all that, and figure out what the actual cost is that we are accounting for, so that we then, when we calculate our Aquarius costs, we are actually measuring reality. So that's the discussion that was going on the modeling team. And then we had a really good discussion about the app that Arvind is working on, which is, and what does wealth mean in the new currency? What does wealth mean? So wealth is not just how many dollars you have in your bank. It is going to be how many trees are there in your neighborhood, how many birds are there. It's like the abundance of life in our neighborhood. That'll be a measure of our wealth. And then the measure of the wealth of the world will be the abundance of biodiversity on the planet. That's one. It could be how clean is our water. That's a measure of wealth. How clean is the air that we are breathing. So everything that's a measure of health will become a measure of wealth in the new system. And so then you have to figure out, the game that we are playing in the currency system should be to maximize our wealth, okay, the wealth of the planet, the health of the planet, while simultaneously meeting everyone's needs. And not just our needs of humanity, but also the needs of animals and so on. So we become a true caretaker species in that new game. But we will have an impact. So we have to measure our ecological footprint too, which is what Aquarius is going to do. So I'm happy that that group has now become active on Basecamp, and we had over 10 people, I think 13 people, which is pretty good for a Basecamp meeting. And so people are serious about getting involved. So we're meeting again. We're meeting on every Monday, the first Monday of every month, okay, between 4:30 and 5:30 Pacific time. And we're meeting twice a month for the modeling team. So it's the first Monday and the fourth Monday. So in the modeling team, we have to run simulations and see, can we get enough, what are the parameters that would generate enough activity for the economy to be ongoing in a system like that, right? Because currently we know how to make people work. Just make them hungry, then they'll work. That is the approach that we have used, right? That's how we are building an economy right now. Make them have lots of debt, then they'll work, right? Because they have to pay back the debt, right? That's the mentality. That's the idea that we have, right? So in the new system, everyone will feel secure, everyone will feel that they belong. Then will they work? That's the question. And so we have to, figure out the health of people. There are certain parameters that would determine whether people will volunteer to work in a system like that. And we know, for instance, in the Sikh temples, in the Sikh gurudwaras, everyone is a volunteer and they feed hundreds of people, thousands of people. Okay? And everyone comes, brings their contribution. Maybe someone brings a sack of flour, someone brings this, someone brings vegetables, and then they look at what they have and they say, okay, we can make this dish and we can make this roti. I mean, someone has to bring flour because they always make rotis, right? And then they figure out what they can make with the rest, and they cook it. So they cook it there, and then they serve it to people. And so everything happens with volunteers.
Silas,
Yes.
you know the story of the aeroplane that crashed in Chile, I think it was, and with some Italian footballers, something like that. And it was made into a film called Alive. I don't know if everyone's seen it. But my friend always used to say that she was really struck by something in that book when she read it, was that they were all trying to survive. Different people were allotted different jobs. You do this, you do the butchering of the people who died, all that. And there was one guy, and he refused to work. He just leave me. I don't care. I don't care if I survive or not. Don't feed me then if you don't want me. I'm not going to work. This was the basic story that she was telling me, so it's coming to me secondhand, although I did see the film. And there was quite a discussion about it. Should they feed him, the lazy so-and-so? Why should they feed him, and all this kind of thing? And then they decided out of the goodness of their hearts that they would feed him. And then ultimately they found that there was a very important job that this guy who was doing nothing was doing. He was making them laugh. My guess is he was also making them feel superior, because I've got a big issue about, this work ethic. Oh, the lazy good for nothings. Look at them. They're on the street with the begging bowl. But I want to include all of those people who are like that. And I like that story.
You're on mute, Silas.
Yeah, in a system like that, everyone eventually finds their niche. They do their thing because everyone wants to contribute. Okay, provided they're healthy. If they're not healthy, they don't want to contribute. They won't contribute because they're more interested in correcting their health first.
I don't think that guy was trying to contribute. He was just being himself.
Right.
But he just had this gift of making them laugh. Maybe wasn't even a comic. Maybe it was just the fact that he was a lazy good for nothing. He became the butt of the jokes, and laughter is a survival mechanism. So the very person that you think is not contributing could be contributing a massive amount to morale.
Also, this weekend, on Saturday, we are planning to have a webinar from 9 to 11 and 3 to 5. And the discussion is going to be around racial justice and the 7 core shifts. Okay, so I have emailed Priya Naik if she would come and talk about how COVID-19 is affecting people of color more than it affects others. So we need to hear that story. And I'm going to ask Melvin to come and contribute as well. Melvin Taylor, as to what's going on.
When will that be, Silas?
9 to 11 a.m. on Saturday and 3 to 5 p.m. And I'm going to put the general invitation out on Basecamp for people to come and talk about it. So everyone on Basecamp, we are going to invite them to be on the panel. And then we will make it open to the public. We'll show it on Facebook so we can discuss it in the open.
One thing that stuck with me when we were talking about the K-Mama app and how it's going to shift towards the religious centers in each given city. Is there a possible mandate to try to identify different cities and start to do research on what churches may be willing to be involved in this project? We're thinking of Toronto in particular, and just kind of brainstorming where the different centers are.
Right. In Phoenix, we are getting the Venkatakrishna temple, so a Hindu temple, to be the first starting point. So we have a list of 16 families that need food, that these days are going to food banks and they're getting whatever they can, but they really need to be served better food. And then we spoke to a Mormon temple that's offering their kitchen as well. They said they don't know how to cook whole food, plant-based food, but the Hindu temple, the cook said he'll cook it too. So they have a cook, and the temples are all now, no one's coming, no one's donating to them because no one's coming, and so they're all ready to serve like this. Okay? So they're open to it because it brings donations from the devotees when they see that the temple is doing this service, and the devotees come just to volunteer because they have to cook the food and deliver it to people, right? So they're coming to volunteer. So the Mormon temple said they could, if we can go and cook, we can bring food there that's cooked or go and cook there, then they're happy to be a distribution point. So I think this way there are a lot of potential places of worship that will join us. In fact, Rabbi Shmuley sent a contribution to the Animal Agriculture as Immoral book that we are compiling. So he sent a contribution which was about this. It was about, let's give good food to our neighbors. And that's the way to bring them into our fold. And we should be doing this as people of faith, coming together as people of faith on this. So
he's on your PCRM board, right? He's on the committee to
the Universal Meals. Yeah.
Universal Meal Program.
Yeah, he's on the Universal Meals Advisory Committee. Yeah.
Is that going to figure into the K-Mama app?
Yes. So the K-Mama app will be linked to the Universal Meals. We're going to tell them here, if you really want to know how to cook like this, just look it up here, the Universal Meals. So those will be like the default recipes that places of worship can use if they don't know what to cook. But like the Hindu temple, they have lots of recipes. They know how to do it. And I just have to tell them, don't use oil, just dry roast your spices instead of cooking it in oil. That's the only change they need to do. Otherwise, they don't even use ghee these days. It's all oil-based. So they are automatically doing whole food plant-based pretty much. Okay, so it's very easy for them to convert. And then
well, the first meal options gluten-free as well.
Yeah.
And allergy-free.
Yeah, gluten-free. And I mean, Universal Meals are all gluten-free, allergen-free, so pretty much most nut-free, soy-free. So they're recipes that are based around other ingredients, but they're nutritious.
There's one thing that churches should be good at is identifying within their congregation people who whose needs aren't being met, especially in these times. Doesn't necessarily follow, but it is something to encourage. And that leads to the other question: when you're working from churches, are you seeking people of that particular religious persuasion, or is it just people that are in that neighborhood?
In that neighborhood. So basically what the K-Mama app would do is connect people who are hungry with places of worship that are supplying food. Okay, I mean, food distribution centers, let's call it, right? That people, and since these are places of worship, then you also have a way for you to donate to them. You can donate to them and say, I want 10 meals to be supplied on my behalf, whatever. So people can choose, okay, I want my food from the Mormon temple, or I want my food from the Hindu temple, or from the synagogue. They can choose, depending on what is being offered at each place. Okay, so the idea is that then it's easier for the distribution people. They get orders, so they look it up and see who has to be supplied, and then they go drop it off.
So as we're thinking about Toronto, should we also be thinking about areas that have a higher concentration of people in need? We're kind of at a crossroads area. We live in an area that's kind of near religious centers, but also near areas that are considered projects.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, those are the places. I mean, there'll be a lot of need there, so which means you have to get the food to them. So it's easier to do it from temple places of worship that are closer there. Right. So you could contact every bishop, every religious person I've called up and asked this question, they all want to help. They all want to join. I've never had anyone say, no, I don't want to do this. You know, I think it's a win-win. There is no way that anyone will say, I don't want to participate in it. I mean, the Mormon temple, they did tell me, look, we don't know how to cook like this, but you're welcome to use our facilities. You're welcome to talk to my congregants and have them, because he's doing Zoom with his congregants. So initially we are thinking of Phoenix, and we are trying it out in Phoenix with a spreadsheet right now. Okay, so the app is not yet done. So, but we have spreadsheets with names of people who need food, and we have people who are willing to cook, and we have resources. So let's start at least with spreadsheets and start distributing. Let's try it out and see what problems we face, right? What kind of packaging that needs to happen, what not. And so we are thinking of doing that here, and John wants to do it in Seattle also and you're welcome to start this in Toronto too, because it's completely independent.
When the app launches, what does that look like? And what anybody can download the app? It's going to be available in the App Store?
It'll be available on App Store, on Google Play, and iOS, Apple Store. So it's both an Android and iOS app.
So people will be downloading once they hear about it, and they'll hear about it more in the locations that are active. But presumably it's a worldwide release, and as soon as there's interest, is there ways of managing that interest? Somebody goes responds.
It'll be all local. So it'll be local. So managing is all going to be localized. So we have admins. So we can assign admins for each city. And then the admin is responsible for inputting all the places of worship in that city that want to join. Okay. And then each place of worship gets its own Stripe account, so they can add their own bank account for people to donate to. And then they get their list of orders that they have to supply. So we are trying to make it as decentralized as possible. So the only thing we need to do from a central source is to find an admin so that make it available in that city. Until there's an admin in that city, if someone says, I want food in this city, they will say, not yet available in this city.
Sailesh, have you contacted the environmental groups? Although they might not have kitchens, they might be very on board in terms of volunteer deliveries.
Yeah. So far, I haven't contacted any environmental groups. Even the places of worship happened by accident. It's like I was talking to someone and he said, yeah, we have a kitchen in the temple we could use. And I said, aha, that's how the flash hit. And otherwise, I was just doing it one by one. I was cooking here and taking it to people. And so that's how it started, right? It was just me cooking 10 meals at home and taking it to people. And calculating what it costs, right? And because it's completely whole food plant-based, if I discount my, my time for cooking, it was costing me about $1 per meal. It's fairly inexpensive. Things you can do with lentils and beans and rice and so on. And so I was just, that was my actual cost because I was buying at Costco, and but once I contacted this organization to do it in scale so that I can get 16 families served, not just one family served, they brought the temple idea in and they brought their volunteers in. And so they have 130 volunteers. And so they said, we'll find people who will come and help with this, make this happen.
All right, James had his hand up for quite a while, and I just want to point out that not everyone's comfortable just cutting in. Some people just raise their hand, so I just want to apologize to James for that. James, you still available? It's like 2 a.m. there in Ireland.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. No, I it was all right. It was in relation to an earlier part of the conversation there about how do you get people to work and when they're fed and what have you, like, so. But as you in relation to that, I'm just saying like that most people work, as we know, to put food on the table and a roof over their heads, and their week is consumed by that work 40 hours minimum anyway, like to do that alone. And it's something we discussed, because once you put the food on the table for everybody, they can sit down and have the conversation then, as you were saying. But we discussed that already before. If it was more or less a mandatory, voluntary basis rather than work as such. In other words, everybody with mandatory had to volunteer 20 hours a week. How they volunteer, that is whatever niche, as Silas was saying, everybody has their niche, ultimately everybody have something that they want to do. So if their bellies were full and they would have to put in their 20 hours a week, then everyone gets a similar wage. That cuts out the hoarding kind of thing then as well. Like, and with 20 hours a week, that cuts down the unemployment problem as well, because everybody will have a job. Sorry, thanks. That's it.
It's a great idea, James. Yeah. Having an expectation of at least 20 hours of volunteering or something or the other, it doesn't matter. Because there is this offers and needs type of network. That's what's going to be built here, right? People have needs that need to be met, and others have skills that they can offer, resources that they can offer. And you're matching the two. Right? And that can be done in software. Matching the two.
Ray, did you have a comment?
One thing that's kind of struck me since the COVID crisis has happened, and some of the things that are happening in the headlines, is that the food industries, especially the meat industries, have been suffering because people aren't eating in restaurants. And I mean, immediately I think, well, everybody's still eating 3 meals a day. So why is there such a big stress on the meat industry because people aren't specifically eating in restaurants? Is it the portion sizes tend to be more meaty in restaurants? And I'm also familiar with the work of Project Drawdown, and they've ranked their solutions to mitigate climate change between now and 2050. And the solution number 3 is food waste, outranking their plant-rich diet solution. So I think that there could be a correlation that restaurants waste a lot more food than the system of where we feed ourselves, or we have this community kind of feeding where we make one meal and everybody shares it. This idea of everybody should be blessed with a menu of 50 different options and go, well, yeah, I want that one or that one or that one. The KMOM app isn't the free version of Just Eat. I think James mentioned it last week or at one of the meeting previously. We actually did have Just Eat in North America as well. But this obviously isn't it. This is a building a new system that everybody has an opportunity to look at it and go, yes, feeding each other, rather than the selective kind of decision of how you consume and impact the environment with complete indifference. So now that the KMOM app has shifted from restaurants to places of worship, I have to decide what is that link between vegans and our favorite vegan restaurants. Are we turning our back on them? Or is this an indication that vegan restaurants was never the pathway to a vegan world? And now there's so many activists that are thinking in that way, that it's all about the vegan restaurants. I have a craving, I want to eat. Where am I going to go if there's not a vegan restaurant on the corner? That makes it so much harder. So this is, I think, a much more intuitive way of expressing the change that we're seeing. That food is something that we share, and that is more of a community thing, not a the food entertainment dilemma that really anchors meat in our society. The food entertainment that no matter how much the World Health Organization says it's a carcinogen, no matter how much the dietary guidelines for Americans say eat less meat, people still go, well, yeah, but not when I'm at a restaurant, not when I'm on a date, not when I'm entertaining people. They won't be entertained unless there's meat on the table. Something has to die for Thanksgiving to even have any meaning, right? So so it was a bit of a shock when you said that it was changing to places of worship, and then it didn't take long for me to realize this is really a profound shift. Also, because we've constantly been talking about wanting our own storefront. We want to have a vegan cafe in our neighborhood, so why not make one ourselves? And the COVID crisis made it clear that that was the wrong choice. We're so glad we didn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, we see our friends struggling here, and part of the reasons, like with the thing that I'm going to be doing, is they're trying to give whatever little business like that they can through donations to these restaurants. But I kind of look at it like it's prolonging the inevitable, like it's helping them pay their rent, but like this, it isn't the solution, right? It's, it's a Band-Aid solution.
Right. So I put a link on the chat, Ray. So please click on that and take a look. That's a webinar that is being run by academics about the problem with meat right now. I think you will really appreciate that. That's happening on Friday at Tufts University. So they're talking about what's wrong with the supply chain and where it's all broken, and and what can we do about it, type of thing. But you're right. Restaurants do waste a lot more food than we would if we were cooking in a temple or something like that. And or if you're cooking at home, I don't waste food at all. I eat everything. Whatever I bring, I eat. So it's that's why I think a lot of the waste is being squeezed out of the system, and they're not able to sell as much as they used to. And they're also not able to produce as much as they used to, because they have to shut down their slaughterhouses. In fact, when I was listening to the conversation in New York, the Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer had organized a webinar about the food situation in New York. And she was saying that in New York, they have plenty of whole chicken available. But no one wants that. No one wants to do anything with the whole chicken. They're only used to chicken breast. They don't want to see the chicken, okay? Because they don't want to cook that. They want to cook just the breast, so it looks like just a big lump of meat, right? So people are not eating meat because they don't have the right kind of meat available to them.
In Bristol, in England, there was a restaurant that used to take all the leftover food, the food that supermarkets were going to waste or shops were going to waste. They used to receive it by the box, and you could just pay what you liked or eat for free if you liked. It received a lot of publicity. I think it kept going for a few years until the people working in it wanted to move on to something else. So that's an interesting model to follow through for restaurants, taking in. So they didn't know what they were going to cook by the day. The menu would change all the time because it all depended on what was delivered in terms of food that would have gone to waste. And I knew people that went to eat there, and it was absolutely delicious and a happy atmosphere. And if you were broke, you paid nothing, no questions asked. If you wanted to donate, you could. And it managed to survive a few years anyway.
Yeah, that's another advantage of teaming up with places of worship, is that they are able to get donations easily. Donations of food from supermarkets or whatever. I mean, if you tell them this is what we're doing, they give it to you. People say, here, take it. Take whatever is there.
I think that restaurant was doing it from a planet environment point of view. It didn't have any links. Yeah, I mean, what's great about the churches is you've got an existing infrastructure, but you could argue that you've got an existing infrastructure with the restaurants that are at the moment in crisis because of COVID-19.
Jamie?
Oh, thank you. So I wanted to comment that watching the evolution of this over time, it started off as an app, and it's going to work this way and da-da-da-da, right? And then over time it shifted here, and then it shifted there, and now we're, and my point is, I'm reminded of the title of a book from 15 years ago or so. The title reads like this: Often Wrong, Never in Doubt. Okay, so whatever is like the model of the moment, we're like, yeah, that's it, and we'll do it this way, and we'll automate it this way, and it'll go like that. But then it keeps changing. My point is simply this: the it is the conversation, right? The conversation is the place where this evolution happens, and we should certainly not try to stop the evolution or say, no, it's this, and let's just end this. No. It's always an evolution. It's always a conversation, because for a number of reasons. Number one, COVID's here, right? Whatever we would have figured out back in December, it's now totally different now. Yeah, as Ray pointed out, back in December, it made all the sense in the world. Started eating cafe. Well, now everything's different. So things are going to keep changing as climate changes, as refugee situations, human rights, you name it. So we need to be ready to evolve. And so I'm really putting in a big plug for the conversation. Now, as we resolved at the block party last Friday, we're now designating two 2-hour time slots on the block party that are spaced 12 hours apart from 7 to 9. Was that 7 to 9 a.m. or p.m., Jamin? Both. So this is Pacific time. So 7 to 9, just remember 7 to 9. Set your alarm, set 2 alarms, one for a.m., one for p.m. And we're going to be talking food healers. That's the food healers. That's 4 hours every block party, spaced 12 hours apart to make it totally friendly to every time zone. And we're going to go even friendlier, so that on Tuesday afternoons at the Solution Club, even before Vegan World 2026 Collective Intelligence, when we'll probably be talking about it as well, like we are today. So we'll have Tuesday afternoon as well, which is kind of in between the 7 to 9 polls. So we're really very clock friendly. We're world clock friendly. We got options. And basically what I'm proposing is that the way that we really distinguish ourselves is as a compassionate planetary collective intelligence for feeding everyone immune boosting, whole food, plant-based diets. And this is the place where we figure it all out, all of it, including eliminating food waste, including leveraging religious centers and communities, including promoting growing food at home, right? So we don't have to even spend the diesel and the trucks and the tires and everything going from farms to homes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. See, that's why it's a conversation. It's always evolving. The center of mass of food production is a shift from the farms in the Midwest to your living room, to your windowsill, to your rooftop, to your backyard, to your community garden, et cetera, et cetera. So this is an evolution in progress. So the place for the evolution to happen is in conversation and better together, right? It's cheaper by the dozen when it comes to food production, as Silas discovered, and it's smarter by the dozen when it comes to collective intelligence. So anyway, just remember 7 to 9 on Friday, 7 to 9. Yeah. Anyway, and Tuesday afternoons as well. Okay, I'm complete. Going on mute. Thanks.
I second that, Ray. Often wrong, never in doubt. New motto of Vegan World 2026 Base Camp. I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Alish, everybody, you see that picture in my blog? That was my first attempt at making aquafaba, you know, from the chickpea water. So one was vanilla on the one side, and the other one was the strawberry one.
Looks like a success. It looks firm. You got the strawberries to suspend in it, so I call that a win.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was great. I did a lime one as well, but I actually made, before I went plant-based, I made some French macaron with egg whites, and it was a success first time, to the extent that my friend said, "What packet did you get those out of?" Anyway, they were perfect. I couldn't believe it. So there's a cake shop called Patisserie Valerie, and they are going to be doing vegan French macaron. So my next step is to make vegan French macaron.
Well, everyone knows that food comes from packets, right, Silas?
I know some restaurateurs that did some macarons, and they said, find a backup plan what to do with the broken macaron, because you'll have, you know, a batch that'll have most of them perfect, and those are of course the ones you want to show. But you take the crumbs and you make something else out of it, because there's a lot of casualties. It's
Yeah,
such a delicate
we have a dish in England. It's got a horribly posh name. It's called Eton Mess. Eton is the school for the super rich, you know, like people like Boris Johnson went there. But I have to tell you this about Eton: it wasn't actually started out for the rich. It was started out for the very poor boys, to give them an education way back when. But anyway, they've got this pudding, and it's little bits of meringue, whether, you know, we'd make it out of aquafaba, they make it out of eggs, and it's all smashed up, and it's mixed up with strawberries and cream, and it's called Eton Mess.
We have to perfect those and croissants, otherwise we'll never get France to go vegan.
you can make le mousse au chocolat with the aquafaba. I haven't quite worked that one out yet, but I'll try.
I've done it and it's delicious.
Well, actually, the French, I guess, are saving themselves because aquafaba was discovered by French chefs, from what I've heard.
I just wanted to make a comment, Jamie, what you were talking about, like growing food, like in your, like in your own space, right? Because I know in Toronto, there's a lot of limitations about where you can grow your food, right? And so many people in Toronto have really small lawns and, you can't really even play on it, right? But we're not allowed to grow food on there. And I don't know how much they enforce it, but like, how do we tackle like that, those sort of ridiculous laws of, our government telling us where we can and cannot grow our food, right?
Well, you see, that's another challenge for collective intelligence, right? Because as we grow this, and I'm not kidding when I say go from, dozens of us to hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands. I mean, this is fast becoming the only game in town. If we don't feed everyone, we're going to have a Mad Max world out there. And it's really hard to do solar radiation management in a Mad Max world, okay? So this is not optional. That fact is rapidly going to spread. That's why we're working on this story, the K-Mama movie, right? The new Stone Soup story that we were cooking up earlier, et cetera, et cetera. We've got to get the word out. The people will come. So as they come, we get to then branch out like a root structure, right? To the far tentacles of the universe of food, right? Which is our universe. And so I'll just wrap up real quick. So anyway, my answer is always going to be my answer, Kelly. It's always the same answer, right? Collective superintelligence, because there within that universe of topics, you will have every single specialty topic with experts who've been thinking about it and working on it for decades, all right there at your fingertips. We're talking about a whole new paradigm in terms of intelligence, right? Google, you search for static information, right? That's by definition dead. It's just sitting there. Somebody birthed it months or years or even minutes ago, whatever, but it happened in the past. This is happening right now. Hi. Yeah, this is a real person. I'm really here. And this is happening right now. That's a big difference, right? So if you think of all these different conversations covering like the surface of a sphere the size of Earth, right? We're constantly expanding outward. All the action is at the surface, just like a living tree. All the action is at the surface, right? We're leaving behind a bunch of dead wood, very useful dead wood. I mean, index it, Google it, search it. That's, leverage it, right? Every IEEE meeting that Silas attended, it's now memorialized and it's part of the infrastructure, part of the pyramid at the top of which sits this multi-core chip inside this machine that enables me to be so productive and hanging with you all, right? So it's all good, but now we've got to tend to the surface. Before we've just been, like one of my dad's best friends, a manager at IBM in the Silicon Valley, on his fridge, I remember for years, had this picture that said, to hell with the future, let's get on with the past. Well, that's been, search up until now. Right now, it's time to get on with the present and the future. And we need to be collectively super intelligent, like Ray's augmented brain behind him. But we all need the augmentation. And the way we get it, again, is coming together. This is where we make it happen. Literally, it's not somewhere else. It's not happening. It's happening right here. And we need to stoke that fire and keep it going. All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I'm complete. Going on mute.
Kelly, you could do it like a protest, I suppose. But or better still, you could approach the councils. They've got targets on the environment now. They know. They might be slow at it. I don't know whether you call them councils over there. They've got targets on the environment, so you could push that and say, we want these lawns to become food gardens, community gardens, where people can pick their own vegetables. It's good for their health. But if they're resistant to it, you could pull in Extinction Rebellion, who are quite good at this kind of thing, to do a kind of protest dig and plant of it. They did one in London outside the Home Office. They just dug up all the turf, and they did it at one of the colleges as well. I think there were arrests, but the thing is about the Extinction Rebellion groups is that they don't mind getting arrested because it furthers the publicity. That's part of the civil disobedience thing that they do. So that could be some options.
Oh, and if you don't mind my just doing a quick follow on, I know Silas has his hand raised, but let's do it in Toronto. I'll come. I'll do the digging. I'm actually really good at digging with a shovel. My pot belly, that's one of the big assets of my pot belly, is I can step hard on a shovel. And then the story will be the Americans are invading and they're taking over even our lawns, our front lawns. And yeah, I'd be this American dude. Yeah, what's up? What's up? You know, and it's part of the story. The Americans are invading, which is of course Canada's biggest fear. So, but now it's happening. But you know, it's a good invasion. It's a bunch of, you know, American vegans. What? And they want to feed everybody? What? Well, that's not so bad. Shoot, let the Americans invade. Right? Led by Dr. Silas Rao. You know, the invasion of Canada has begun.
One thing Toronto's really good at is protests. We're good at protesting, so we could definitely, if we didn't already, because there's a big controversy. I think like late last year or mid last year about it, because they were also talking about like having backyard chickens. So it was this big thing in the newspaper about backyard chickens. So it's like we can't grow vegetables on our front lawn, but we're debating whether to allow backyard chickens, right? So I think like there was some, I don't know if it was like actual street protesting, but you know, it definitely ruffled our our community, and you know, whether we were writing letters. I know we were at one point like going on the websites, you know, of the news stations that were like talking about this, you know, where they have polls and dominating the polls and saying no and, you know, doing that. I don't know if we ever did anything more than that, but yeah.
I'm usually long-winded in my arguments online, but for that one, for the chickens in the backyard in Toronto, I just had one sentence. It was backyard chickens in the city with the most raccoons, because I think we're ranked second or third for most raccoons. You can just imagine how ruinous the city would become if people had chickens in their backyard. Obviously a bad idea. But I was kind of laughing when she was talking about whether they enforce the gardening in your front lawn rule. Our next door neighbors garden in their front lawn, and we have since we've lived here. So, I mean, they're not the most activist family. I'm sure that they don't have an activist mind at all. But that is the way that you can get things done. Is you could go to City Hall and say, I want to garden in my front lawn. And they'll say, well, okay, interesting. We'll think about it. You can just garden in your front lawn and then wait for them to come and object to it. And then you're, you know, violating an unjust law. And therefore you have a platform through which they have introduced, rather than you just falling on deaf ears at City Hall.
It's like in
if that doesn't
England.
work, the way our neighbors work it is they pretend they don't speak any English.
Yeah, that's a good one. In England, quite a lot of the zebra crossings were painted on because the councils didn't get round to making the roads safe for children to cross. So there'd be a protest, they'd paint the zebra crossing, and then that would become, because it totally made sense and kids were getting killed and what have you, or they couldn't afford a lollipop lady, that's somebody to guide them across. So it's a fait accompli, they've created it, you know. So yeah, it's just do it really, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly that, because this is now the time when they're not going to be enforcing laws like that. They have bigger problems that they have to deal with, right? So this is when there is more chaos. That's when more of these things can be broken. You know, because these are good things that we need to do. We need to grow. You know, we need to grow food in our neighborhood. And it's not just for our, for your own security, but security of the community. You have to grow this.
And the motto could be grow up. Humanity, grow up. Right?
Or Jamin, it could be we're not chicken.
That's it. No. I see this coming together. Silas, whenever you're done, I'll share more, but go on.
Go ahead, I'm done.
All right. I just want to share real quick. Kelly and Ray, I'm coming to Toronto because I think we're cut out of the same cloth. And let me just share really quick, just like literally like 30 seconds. This is me with my mom and my sister Betty, who also cares for my mom. Well, song at the University of Washington. Drug cartels in the state of Washington. Can you all hear that? Okay. We say bye-bye to the violent criminal drug cartels operating in our great state. Look at the symbolism. It's the shadow of the statue of George Washington. Criminal drug cartels. Which is right here. Criminal drug cartels will cut you down. You won't get up again, so you better get out of town. We'll cut you down. You won't get up again, so you better get out of town. We'll cut you down. You won't get up again, so you better get out of town. We'll cut you down. You won't get up again, so you better get out of town. Criminal drug cartels. Criminal drug cartels. They drink a whiskey drink. They drink a vodka drink. They drink a lager drink. They drink a cider drink. All right, you get the idea. So that's me leading a movement in the state of Washington to rid the state of criminal drug cartels. So as you can tell, I'm not afraid of standing up for what's right. So I will be the American leading the invasion of Canada, digging up your lawns and planting, whole food, plant-based foods for Canadians to eat. We're taking over, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to feed everybody. That's the story. I'm not kidding. And you guys have the juice. Kelly, Ray, I'm not kidding. Let's do this. I've got 2 Darth Vader costumes here and signs ready to go. Right? So let's get it on. I'm totally serious. So let's put together a plan. I'm telling you, together we can do this. And it's time for such audacious things, especially with America now so down on itself. We need a real war. Let's invade Canada. So this becomes the American invasion of Canada. Now it's a bunch of vegans, and our first thing we're going to do is feed everybody, and bring out the mounted police on horseback. Let's make a scene. Toronto's last stand, whatever it takes. Seriously, let's do this.
Although Miles is in Calgary, that's kind of cow country. That would go over really well. Not only, it's kind of like the Texas Canada. It's both the oil and the steers.
Well, but here's the thing. But Toronto is the New York of Canada, and so we need to do it in that big capital city. I know it's not the political capital, but that doesn't matter. It's the capital of Canada.
Yeah, just the fact that we have a law like that is just ridiculous, right?
Oh, no. And no, see, and that's going to be the thing. We're repealing defunct Canadian laws, starting with this one, and I will burn that paper. Let's get a big 11 by 17 parchment printout. I'll burn it on the lawn before I dig it up. Yeah. And I'll plant the American flag, whatever it takes, seriously. No, I'll become so controversial. All the TV stations will have to interview me. I might take a bullet, but if I do, Viva K Mama will be my last words. And then K Mama will take it through the goalposts. I'll be the martyr, right? I'll be the Che Guevara. I'll be the, not Che, but J Guevara, taking a bullet for the cause, whatever it takes. Look, I don't have a death wish. You don't get me wrong. But, my dad stood up to the mafia in California. They sent a hitman after him. And he messed up the hitman and sent him back to the mob. So I have to follow my dad's legacy. So I took on the drug cartels, and I'm still breathing. So, if you do it public enough, they actually can't mess with you. And, I brought in former Mexican President Vicente Fox back in 2013, and we blew the roof off, as you all know. We can do the same thing in Toronto. The Americans are invading. It's been declared. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, to be honest, I can't believe myself that that it's actually a law that you can't plant your own food in your garden. I mean, that's unheard of over here in Ireland anyway, for one anyway. Like, I mean, at the moment, I'm trying to convince people to go back to doing that more often rather than depending on the supermarket. But there's no law saying you can't do it. I mean, the last law they just tried to bring in there recently, you know, as you might know, is they wanted to put meters on people's water pipes going into their houses so that they could charge for the water. This was an EU objective, like basically everybody has to pay for the water, to pay for the rates. But we as Irish people already know we pay our rates in our taxes. So we're not going to pay for the water twice, and we're definitely not going to pay it to a different country when we're surrounded by water and it's pissing down on us nine months of the year anyway. So that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and the whole country went out. The whole country just went out in force and said, "Fuck you, we're not paying no water charges. You're not shoving up. Anyone puts a meter outside my house, well, I'll go out and I'll take it out and smash it and fuck it back out on the road again." So 80 million euros they paid for water meters in advance of having them to put in, and they'd already went on tried to start putting them in, and the people went out and they had murders, and their 80 million worth of meters now are sitting in a fucking warehouse somewhere because there's no one allowing meters to be put in the house. If they told them that they couldn't plant vegetables in the garden, they go down and burn down City Hall. It'd be as simple as that, because there's no fucking way that we'd put up with that kind of carry on. Like, I mean, sorry, no, like, I don't want to go on, like, but I grew up with the idea that America was the land of the free. What the fuck, like, that to me, honestly, like, I don't know what the hell is going on in that country, to be honest with you, like, but I have to fucking do it tomorrow. I'm just going to say it, like, once and for all. Hashtag America has lost the plot. You know what I mean? Me out anyway there.
Beautiful, James. I'll just tag on. I'm telling you, this is exactly the kind of thing that'll make front page news. See, Ray and Kelly, turning off your camera won't help. I'm coming to Toronto. The American invasion is happening. And really, look, raise your hand if you've seen the movie Milk, about Harvey Milk, San Francisco, gay rights. Okay, great. You'll remember in that movie, how did they actually get media attention? It wasn't over gay rights. It was over, and James, you're gonna have to pardon my Irish, it was over dog shit, right? He stepped in a pile of poop, you know, had you know, called a press conference, stepped in a big pile of poop, had poop all over his shoe, right? Something that's visual, grounded. An American with an American flag and a Darth Vader costume singing Spanish love songs, digging up some dude's front lawn in Toronto and proclaiming that we're, you know, burning Canadian laws and we're instituting real freedom, the freedom to grow your own food. Because what do we associate America with? Freedom. Think of that in a George W. Bush accent. Freedom. You know, so I'll speak like a grunting W if I have to, but we're taking over. We're invading Canada. You guys, that's the last straw. And you know what? Just as James said it with such passion, I'll say it with passion. You're damn right we're invading Canada. If you're not going to let Canadians grow their own food, I'm proclaiming this government genocidal. Genocidal. If you're not letting us grow food, you're trying to starve us to death. Down with Canada. Down with Canada. Down with, how's that going to, me carrying an American flag? How long do you think I'll last? But that's the point. The media will come out to watch this freaking American, pot-bellied American get taken down for trying to invade our precious sovereign Canadian soil. Right? Every last Canadian with a pitchfork will come out to barbecue me. Anyway, go on mute.
It's a counterproductive law unless it's productive for those who made the law. And it's only productive for those who made the law, so that you go out and buy your food in packaging and with an extra bit of taxes and everything else added onto it. I mean, we still have to get, we can't grow everything, but we can grow the majority of our, you know, of our food. If you're eating plant-based foods, like, you can more or less grow whatever is available to you for your climate anyway. You can use greenhouses and warm greenhouses to grow things that you may not have your climate for. Regardless, you can grow 60-70% of your food needs in your own home. and that's why they don't want you to do it. So fuck that. That's a law saying you're under our thumb and you're staying there, Sonny Jim.
No, this is a winner. Anyway, we got a lot of winners in the making, and that's why we need collective intelligence to sort it all out and figure out the holistic solution, right? Rather than each of us going off and doing our individual thing. And that's where we come together in conversation.
I think it'd be great if James came along too, because then you have the accent working for us as well. Canadians love an Irish accent.
No, and that way it can be a coalition. We'll call it the Freedom Coalition. The Irish and the Americans are invading Canada. You can't make this stuff up. Right? And then Silas, if you still consider yourself Indian, the Indians, the Irish, and the Americans are now invading Canada. We not just have we repelled the British Empire, now we've taken the fight in the opposite direction. We're invading the British Empire. Bam, bam, bam. The three nations conquered by the British are fighting back. Right? Mighty Ireland with its army of 10,000 versus India's 10 million, you know, let's do it. This is Lord of the Rings. We're invading Canada, and we're starting by repealing the genocidal Canadian laws designed to starve people to death and force them to eat meat from Calgary.
Hey, I have an idea. Oops, sorry, Emery. I have an idea. I think we should start guerrilla gardening. And that inspires people to get out and plant everywhere. And I think that you could plant around trees. You could uproot paving stones on sidewalks, start planting zucchinis, calabaza, pumpkins. Just go for it. Radical gardening, guerrilla gardening.
Yeah, a guerrilla gardening protest. In other words, you're not allowing it anymore. You're not standing for it anymore. And the more people that do it, they can arrest everyone. That's the way people thought about the water charges. If everyone goes out in the street and everyone says, we're not paying this charge and we're all going to damage the meters if we put them outside the house, they just said, well, okay, we can't do that one anyway. They did. I mean, it took a while, but the message sank into their head, like, because we just stayed on the streets and we just stopped the whole of everything. We just stopped everything. We stopped society for the whole of, 2 weeks that it took them to change their minds. Simple as that. Like. That was a couple of years of planning of the UN gone out the window as far as we were concerned. Because our right to water, every human being on the planet has a right to water as a universal right, and that is a law passed by the UN way back when. Like. And the same applies for food. And if you can't grow some food in your own property, then that is not freedom as far as I'm concerned.
Is the Canadian president best friends with Donald Trump?
No, actually, I didn't watch the video, but I saw the video that on the news that a video of the news asking Justin Trudeau about his thoughts on something about the States, and apparently he paused for 20 seconds before speaking, and he didn't condemn Trump, but like 20 seconds is a long pause. You kind of know what he's thinking when he's got to take 20 seconds to compose something that doesn't, yeah, so I thought that was funny. So no, so I just want to cover, we're allowed to grow stuff in our backyards, but most people in Toronto don't have a lot of space in general, so, you want, like you said, you want to maximize it. And I think, like James, like you said, the bigger issue here is, that they're trying to force us to buy, from corporations and things like that, right? Yeah.
If
I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing this like, yeah, go ahead.
if you have a 5 foot square plot in your garden somewhere, whether it's the front of your house, the back of your house, whatever, a 5 foot square plot, or even if you made 4 or 5 window boxes and secure them securely onto your windowsills, or even put them on the inside there on a large windowsill if you wanted to grow something tropical, vice versa. But with just a 5 foot small plot of ground, you can think, I don't just have 5 foot by 5 foot flat area. I have 5 foot of space and I can grow vertically. So on one small circle of that, only within a 1.5 foot radius on the corner of that 5 foot circle, I can make a radius frame with a couple of wooden poles and some chicken wire in a circle, 1.5 foot in diameter on the corner of my 5 foot plot. And I can lay a bed of natural composts of it could be anything from manures to rotten down leaves and garden waste, a little bit of pot and compost from the garden's centre, and a bit of soil, whatever, and a layer of newspaper as well. Okay, and you put about 4 or 5 inches of soil or bedding in the end of that, and you plant 8 potatoes in it, maybe 6 potatoes in the circle, the outer side of the circle, and 1 in the center. And then you cover that with about 4 or 5 inches of your compost. And you wait then a couple of weeks, 2 weeks, and you see the shoots come up. And then you cover those shoots with another layer of compost. And you wait another couple of days, and the shoots will come up further. And you continue to layer up as the shoots grow, always letting the shoots stick out a little bit above the soil. And before the growing season is out, we could say your tower could be about 4 foot high. Before the growing season is out, then you're at the top. The plants will grow at the top, and you just let them grow away. And when the end of the season comes, you'll see your potato plants will start to yellow, the leaves will start to yellow, and the plant will start to wilt. That's the sign your potatoes are ready to harvest. And you break open your tower, and out of those 6 potatoes, you get about 30 to 40 kilos of potatoes, just in that space. And you still have the other 4.5 or 3.5 foot square to work with your lettuces and things like that. And you don't have to cut the lettuce out of the ground and take it up and put it into a bag like they do in the supermarket, the whole head of lettuce. You just gather the outer leaves. Every day you want to make a salad, you gather some of the outer leaves of the lettuce, and you just work it into a nice little smaller crown again in the ground, and you wash your leaves and everything. But you come back 2 days later, and that whole head of lettuce is full again. It's a replenishing bag of lettuce. You don't need 100 heads of lettuce growing. You only need 2 of 3 or 4 varieties, depending on what type of mixed salad you like. And some radishes and things like that. Carrots, grow them in containers, because as long as they're a foot off the ground, they can't be attacked by the carrot fly. The carrot fly can only fly a foot off the ground. If you put your containers higher than a foot off the ground and you plant your carrots in the containers, you get beautiful, healthy carrots in a couple of, 2 months.
Jamin, you should show everybody our little planters on the porch, because that's a really good example of what James is talking about.
My point anyway that I'm making, sorry I got carried away, the point I'm making is, even if you have a small space, it doesn't matter if it's only a window box. Guerrilla grow in protest, that's the way to go, and do it en masse, and just force the law to be changed, because it's an archaic law, or else it's a law designed to keep you down. Either way is wrong.
No, this screams story. And look at James. Oh my goodness, brilliant. And the heart, the passion. I can see him on Toronto television where every third word is the F-bomb, and he's like bleep, 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 and we got to grow the bleep in gardens, the bleep and the bleep, bleep, and Canadian bleep government. It's just going to be like, whoa, right? Now check this out. I'll just get
sorry about that. I don't even hear those myself, to be honest. That's just part of my normal conversation here. That's the way we speak in Ireland. Every second, third word is an expletive. I'm sorry about that.
No, look, it's like tortillas in Mexican food. Every other bite is a tortilla. Look at the Indian flag. Now look at the Irish flag. You can't make this up. You cannot make this up. And then put an American flag in between and say, yes, this is a joint venture between, the Republic of Ireland, India, United States, boom, 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 bam. That's a story. I'm telling you, let's do this because we need our press conference, right? This way it's open air on a lawn. It's a rebellious act. We do the guerrilla gardening. Guerrilla gardening will just start exploding all over Toronto and all over Canada. I guarantee you. And these Indian, Irish, and American invaders will come on horseback. We'll take on the mounted police right there in downtown Toronto, First and Main. Really, I'm telling you, the stage is set, right? And what this does, it takes the pressure off the United States and it moves it up north to Canada. We're going to export our revolution up to Canada. And I'm telling you, this is just like, let's do it. We got to do something. We got to do something, and we got to do it big, and we got to do it fast. The collective intelligence will figure it out. So the answer is continue the conversation.
Well, once you conquer Canada, then you can have the Canadian flag with the Irish and Indian colors on either side.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
What I'm seeing though, with all this is just like more, like with everything that's going on now with the protests and, it's just like more and more people are just going to get fed up with BS, right? And whether it be laws or whether it be whatever it is, right? And people are listening now, right? So people are becoming more and more aware with this, right? So obviously not to take away with all the protests that are going on for what happened with George Floyd and every other person of color that they're protesting again. But it's just people are getting like a taste of like, we don't want to deal with this crap anymore, right? So whether it be stupid laws like this or whatever stupid other law that, I think like in the past we've struggled, like when we've had protests for, certain things, like even with like filming the slaughterhouse, like stuff that goes on, like stuff like that. We wouldn't get the news. Now, like they're starting to listen, right? So, I'm hoping to see much more protests on everything that's ridiculous about our societies.
Well, look, this gets right to the heart of it, because for every revolution, there is a moment, right? For the American Revolution, it was the Boston Tea Party, right? For the gay rights in San Francisco, it was Harvey Milk stepping in a pile of dog shit. For feeding everyone, for food healers and going 100% plant-based and compassionate, it'll be us digging up a lawn in Toronto, right? It's a revolution. It'll be that act that just like, what? And what that does, all it does is it simply throws all of us into the conversation, right? So imagine Silas sitting in the middle, flanked by Jamin and James on either side, right? And just telling it like it is. Telling it like it is, right? Straight up. And it's like people they'll be transfixed. They'll be transfixed. And then they make the connection to K-Mama and the 10, 12-minute videos. Boof, the dominoes will tumble everywhere. It'll be like V for Vendetta. Boop, that's the first domino. Whoosh, they're down. Done.
And it's whose garden the group of people are digging up is important as well. If you get a group of people, we just say they're volunteers, they go in and dig up the garden of an elderly couple who can't do it themselves. They plant the vegetables and everything else, and it saves them having to go to the supermarkets and everything else to get necessities, healthy food for themselves, and especially in times of pandemics and everything else. And this reduces the amount of plastics and rubbish that they're bringing into the house and throwing back into the environment. And it gives them something to do socially themselves and actively themselves, which is exercise and everything else. It gives them a form of self-independence and a self-worth, and another bit of a reason to live, because other people are calling to help them with the garden every now and again, so they have a bit of company. So it extends their life a little, and it makes them feel a little happy when they're in their old age and retirement, instead of feeling like they're being left on their own, abandoned, in fear, and they can't even fucking grow food. Sorry, language again. That's me out.
Hey, I'm just wondering, James and everyone, like, James, couldn't you run a like online gardening class on Block Party, and like you just get out there with your pot and your soil and your newspaper, blah 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 blah, and then we all just get in there and we just do, 1 hour gardening with James, and we invite lots of people and we put it on social media, and that way you're teaching people so they can actually do what we're talking about. So my online art classes are just going like fire because, education without art, right? Well, I don't need to say more to all of you, but I think it's the same with gardening. I think we could start by doing this as an educational tool that people can then learn and then they can implement. What do you say, James?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that I'd have to work on, because I'd have to figure out how I could do what videos I could do, and I'm already into my growing season, so I have a lot already done. So I suppose I could show a few things that I have done already, I suppose, as examples. Let me think about it. Let me work on that. I can maybe work up a PowerPoint as well or something.
Awesome. Thanks. I'll definitely attend.
Very cool. Well, it is. I think it's about time we wrap up or continue the conversation. Suzanne and I have to get going, but
I want to say really quickly that these are one of my favorite set of. I have like Let's Invade Canada, and I have a funny some notes from tonight's discussion.
I'm sorry, I unfortunately missed part of that, Suzanne. Your favorite something?
My favorite set of notes from all of these meetings. Tonight I have Let's Invade Canada. Like, that's the biggest theme of it.
James,
and the thing is,
sorry, I was going to say, James, I'll definitely attend as well.
I am life and death serious that we do this, because it can be it's just enough laughter, it's just enough humor, it's just enough seriousness, and it just forces you into the conversation. There's this dude from India, dude from Ireland, dude from the United States. They're saying they're invading Canada, starting in Toronto, and literally we'll be digging up the lawn, challenging the Canadian police to arrest us. Burning the law. And if smoking is illegal in Toronto too, I'll freaking smoke a vegan cigarette while I'm digging up the lawn. Whatever. I'm serious. Let's do it. You see, everyone's cracking up. That's a sign that we're on the right track. It's do or die time. I say we do this. I'm not kidding. I say we do this. And James, we'll cover your. Yeah, go ahead.
We were ahead on the weed laws. That's not shocking anymore.
Hey, you're talking to the Bill Gates of Bud here. So we'll totally do this, and we'll do a campaign to fund the whole thing. James, you're going to come over first class on Irish Air. It's a nice flight, and I've taken it, and we'll we're simply going to do this. We're going to show up and do it.
Damon, would we need to bring pitchforks?
No, the Canadians have plenty of those, and they're now being repurposed since we're eliminating the old Canadian hay industry that used to feed cattle. So we're repurposing those pitchforks. So we'll get a special deal on those.
I think those are important props as you're marching with the pitchforks. I think you might need.
No, I'm telling you, Indian flag, Irish flag, American flag, pitchforks, cigarettes, shovels. You cannot go wrong. Anyway, I'm going to let Benjamin and Suzanne off the hook because they've got places to go and revolutions to begin. So, fellow revolutionaries, I salute you. We'll take it from here. And by the way, to add to the story, my middle name is Whipple, Whipple. And for those of you old enough, You'll remember the Charmin ads. Hey, Uncle Frank, welcome. Anyway, I'm a direct descendant of William Whipple, who signed the Declaration of Independence. Technically, I'm his great nephew, but he didn't have children of his own, so it's his great nieces and great nephews who carry on his legacy. So I've literally got revolution in my blood, American anti-British revolution in my blood. And I know there's not a buttload of love for British Empire in India or Ireland either. So you know what? You know, the former colonies are rising up. I mean, this is the story. You can't make this shit up. In London, they would shut us down in minutes. In Toronto, they're just going to be like this. Oh, you know, what do we do with these freaking revolutionaries, former oppressed colonizing, former oppressed victims of your colonization, British Empire? No, this will make it all the way to Justin Trudeau's office, just like we forced the hand of the Obama administration back in 2013 when I brought former Mexican President Vicente Fox. Maybe we'll get him to join us on a horse as well. Let's add the Mexican flag to the mix. Look, what's going to happen is going to be revolutionary. It'll force the whole conversation, because you know what? It'll be a big laugh. Okay, these guys are really no threat. In fact, they just want to feed people, you know, plant-based foods. So it's controversial for sure. It's also funny. It's also serious. They've also got a point. And Toronto and Canada are compassionate enough that they'll receive it well. They'll receive it very well, right? Half of Canada is Irish anyway, so they're going to love the Irish part. The other half is Indian, so they're going to love the Indian part. I mean, it's just, we got this. And it's going to be a picture of the world coming together. See, the world needs to see it before they can believe it. This is how they're going to see. They're going to say, how did you guys meet? Well, we met on the Collective Intelligence Block Party. The what? Yeah, it's the place where we we have food healers meetings every Friday from 7 to 9, AM or PM, both. You know, and it's just like the story's just going to explode from there. I'm telling you, let's light the fuse already. We don't have much time to dilly around anymore. James, book your flight. We're going to start the campaign, the fundraiser. Right? Silas is good at those. So is Ray and Kelly. Let's do it. We're going to raise millions of bucks, if not freaking tens of millions. This is going to go crazy. And you know, if we do it under the K Mama, organization, great. Silas, you're our leader, right? I'm just a revolutionary with a sharp, pitchfork. That's all. Just you tell us when to strike. No, the collective intelligence will tell us when to strike. And we're going to figure it all out by this Friday at the latest. We're coming to Canada. We're taking over. We're taking over. Ray. Ooh. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Yeah.
My internet's kind of lagging right now, but I found some articles about people actually getting arrested and doing jail time for gardening in their front lawn in British Columbia, which is a lot closer to you, Jamin, but also in Michigan. So it can't be a exclusively national issue.
Well, no. If I get arrested, all the better, because then there'll just be protests. I'll be the new George Floyd, of Canada, and there'll be, no disrespect to George, but really, we're talking life and death here. We've got to get the conversation started. We've got to get it in front of everyone. Now, this way we'll get people pouring into the block party, pouring into the conversation, pouring in, gushing in by the millions worldwide. And then we'll have the very good problem on our hands of how do we then break it down and branch out. Just like in a massive conference where there's too many people, you have the general session, then you go to breakout rooms. Right, that'll be our good problem to have, right? How do we channel people into the right portion of the taxonomy of topics? This is when collective superintelligence comes alive and does what it's destined to do, which is to feed everyone, vegan world, cool the planet through SRM, collective superintelligence. That's it. Those are the big four. That's it. And that's our platform right there. And the story, we've got the humor. We've got the international. We've got the everything. It's all there. Ray, Kelly, you guys know all the vegans in Toronto. They'll come out in force because you'll give them the inside track. And there'll be so many people watching that if they arrest me, it'll be huge news. And if they don't arrest me, rah, I'll just be walking all across Toronto with my Darth Vader costume and my American flag, you know, with Silas and James. And it's just going to be like, what? They're not arresting him? How could they not arrest him? I'll go arrest him myself. And so some citizen will come out and challenge me. Let's get it on.
We have a vegan Batman here too. So he can join you.
Oh my goodness. No, you can't make this up. Listen, it's going to be a party. We're going to turn it. What this is going to signal is, all right, world, look, are we done choking each other to death, killing each other to death, burning each other down to death, starving each other to death? Are we done? This is the party that signals it's over. Because once people are dancing to the music, right? And I'll sing in public. I will. And once people are dancing to the music and reading the story and watching the videos and learning about K-Mama and then K-Mama 2050, right? Whoa. The world is just, they're going to fall in love. It's going to be that TV show that you can't put down. It'll be the new thing. I'm telling you, I've been through this cycle before with President Vicente Fox and the whole cannabis world. It works.
Just in relation to what Ray was saying there about a few people tried to plant in their gardens and, you know, got arrested. And I no doubt that is happening, because that's what I'm saying. If the law is there, it's happening. And if somebody decides to plant in their garden, they might know about the law. They'll probably find out quick enough. Or even if they do know about the law, they're planting on their own and they get arrested. And all that shows to the neighbors is, oh, you can't do that or you're going to get arrested. That's why I'm saying you have to choose whose garden you're doing. So if you choose an elderly couple, you're helping them out for all the right reasons. You have a group of volunteers. You have make sure it's all been recorded and everything else. You have a good party, kind of an atmosphere going on there, you know, a happy atmosphere going on there. It's all pleasant and voluntary, like. And if there's arrests made, then you're making a stand. You make the issue then of why you're doing it, and this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? You make a public issue of it, and you record a whole lot as it's happening, being arrested or whatever. But you have to make a stand, and there has to be a group of people. And you see, even if it starts off with only one or a group like that, and you show how ridiculous the whole thing is in the first place, that people aren't allowed to do it, then you encourage people then to get on board with it, make a movement of it. It's the only way to go, like, because you can't allow archaic laws like that to continue.
And also, we set a new model for revolution, because America is going through a revolution by burning its cities down right now, you know, Martin Luther King style, right? Canada's going to show the world a new model for revolution that's international, because Canada is very international, extremely international, more international than the United States. And Canada doesn't have, you know, the old legacy of African slave trade. It didn't participate. Canada certainly did plenty of bad things, but African slave trade wasn't one of them. What we do is we show the world. It becomes like the second city television to New York Saturday Night Live. This becomes the backdrop. This becomes the alternative. This becomes the feel-good story, right, next to the feel-bad story of America's cities continue to burn. Going on mute. And by the way, I'm going to have a revolution of my own on my hands here if I don't get in for dinner. So I think I'd better attend to that. But feel free to keep hanging. I'm going to stop the recording. See, Silas is already booking his plane ticket to Toronto.
Yes,
So this thing's a go. Yeah. Anyway, any last words before I
Yeah, so the brother of Lloyd made an impassioned speech to end the violence. So
Yeah, I got his number.
You're good, sweetie. I muted him.
Yeah, so the more peaceful and the more creative that this can be, the better. And I worry about the pitchforks because those could be construed as weapons. So I think
there won't be pitchforks. We'll just have normal spade shovels.
Think, you know, planting with love. That's what we want to do. Planting with love. That's going to win.
We won't have any shovels or pitchforks anyway because we'll be doing no dig gardening. Permaculture, that doesn't involve digging. Digging is destroying the soil.
That's a really good point. So we're going to have our own little revolution internally about that. We'll definitely take that on Friday and figure it out. That's because then if we can do it in a non-violent way, there is something violent about digging. So if you do it the way you're talking about, and we pick some kind of bare earth, bare dirt kind of, gardens where there's like, we're not even killing a blade of grass. We can find the right places with the right elders who are the owners, who are malnourished because you can't get good produce anymore because, all the food networks are collapsing. And we just want to feed these elders. What are you going to do? Arrest me for feeding Canadian elders? That's going to go over well with Canadian voters, Mr. Chief of Police, right? Anyway, go on mute.
And one of the things about this law is it's generally for the aesthetics. They like the look of turf lawns. They think the property value is optimized when everybody's lawn is a nice green. So, I mean, sod serves its purpose for avoiding erosion, but this idea of everybody's lawn, everybody needs a lawn in order to be a good neighbor, is kind of this antiquated and kind of shallow perception that's being fostered with these kind of laws. Somebody was talking.
And that law was part of the old world, and we're now part of the new world. So what we got to do is create a new vision, right, that people can buy into. And when they see that it can be beautiful, right, vegetable gardens don't have to be ugly. They can be really spectacular, and the English create really amazing vegetable gardens that bring in flowers and all kinds of things and are really artworks. Then I think that we could make them fashionable and trendy, and people will want that as well as practical and feed people. So that would be my suggestion as an approach, not just functional, but also beautiful, and make it fashionable and make people want. It's a really great way to irrigate land as well, and to hold the soil and maintain the earth, and bring back habitat, butterflies, insects, creatures we need, earthworms, all that. You don't have to use Roundup to get rid of the weeds.
Yeah, somebody posted on Facebook recently. One of our friends said, "I hate the look of a lawn that doesn't have any dandelions on it because they're used by various bees to pollinate."
Right, and dandelions are. Sorry, dandelions are really yummy. I eat them all the time.
Well, on a lot of pesticides and insecticides aren't used here anymore anyway, because the idea of having flowers in amongst your vegetable plot is not just to beautify the garden, which of course is a lovely thing as well, but you can select the type of flowers that you want to put into your garden, because certain plants, certain flowers will actually ward off certain pests. So you have rosemary and you have thyme and things like that, and they're herbs and that. They'll keep away ants and things like that. There's certain things that you can use. You put down a small, saucer of beer or something like that, and it gets rid of slugs. There's lots of different ways of planting different plants in around your vegetables, but you can do it without using chemicals and still keep a garden pretty.
Absolutely, love that, James. The other thing I've noticed is by feeding the animals around us, actually having areas designated for feeding birds and insects and things, chipmunks, they actually leave all the vegetables alone because their tummies are full. So That's another thing to think about.
We had a mean squirrel once that would just take one bite out of every tomato. But it just shows the range of character of our animal friends, right?
That's hysterical. What a mean squirrel.
Well, either that
Greedy.
or he was trying to promote the Apple computer brand. I don't know. Maybe he had a contract.
It was an possum. Then we had to decide whether to eat it. It's kind of an animal's taking a bite out of it. Yeah, that's all right.
Well, Jamin left a container of peanuts out on the shelving out on our deck for about 2 minutes, and the squirrel chewed through the plastic and the metal and got into the container, knocked it over so he could have peanuts.
It was one of those sort of heavy foil like layers on the top of the can that you can peel back, but it was heavy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they've done nothing on our raccoons. Our raccoons can get into anything. They spent like millions of dollars on these new raccoon-proof compost bins, and someone filmed a raccoon getting into it in like 2 minutes the day that they were delivered to us.
Yeah, they get into our bin, and you have to turn the lid and lift it up with the, where they match the arrows on the lid. They even got that mastered.
Yeah, they're real wily. They're super intelligent. We actually feed the raccoons. I haven't seen them this season, but they bring their babies to us, and
Same
we
we have a mama under our porch that comes out every night.
super cute. Awesome.
Remember going on a road trip and coming back, and we got pulled into the parking lot, and the raccoons came out to see us because they hadn't seen us in a week. So they were pretty anxious to see Kelly again, and they crawled right into her lap.
No kidding, really? That's awesome.
And I think that was the day that we realized there was 2 families, and it ended up being 13 raccoons with between 2 moms and the babies, I think it was.
That's crazy. That's a lot of raccoons. A lot of poop. Very stinky poop. That's so cute. I think I shared this story before, but I had a mama raccoon that I fed for years in Seattle, and she brought her babies up onto the deck and left them with me one day. And I had a bag of cherries, and I rolled them across the deck to the babies, and they would eat the cherries and then spit the pits at me. It was like a little game. It was so cute.
We'll find a picture of a raccoon that we had about 4 years ago. We were hanging out in our backyard more, but we had chairs up out. We had our table and everything, and the raccoon would just come and sit with us in the chair.
Have
and
an empty chair for him. And he'd come up and sit in the chair, and you know, some food. He'd sit there with his food.
Yeah, like he'd be sitting up like this. It was really, that raccoon was, I mean, I love all the raccoons, but that raccoon was precious. It really was sweet. I would just lie with it, and it would just play with my hair, and it was a really special raccoon. But yeah, like literally just sitting there. We'd be having a beer, and he'd just be sitting there eating this.
Love it. That's beautiful. Wow.
Well, we used to live outside of Toronto, and at one time, a raccoon family left our backyard and left one of the babies, and it was sitting on the fence and crying. So we took it into the house and did some research to try to find out where it could be rehabilitated for the wild. And most of the places we called would have killed the raccoon. So we asked around until we found a place, and there was one. It was quite a ways out of town, but we took it to this rehabilitation place. The interesting thing is, after they get rehabilitated, they say, "What's your address?" And they come and drop it off at your address, because that's where that raccoon belongs. They've decided it's an urban creature, so it deserves to be in your neighborhood. So
that makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah, and there might be the scent, that the mom might recognize, or the baby too. because they have a different sense of smell than we have, of course.
We had a hard time feeding it because it didn't learn how to. It was still nursing, so we'd give it a saucer of milk, and it would stick its nose in the milk, and it would start splutter. It can choke because it doesn't know how to drink out of a saucer. So we just put pieces of bread with the milk, so it could soak it up and it could suck it out of the bread.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Love that. You guys are awesome. Thank you for what you're doing to help all the beautiful children of Mother Earth.
I'm not sure
No,
if
I'm
I
telling you.
understand.
That's
For it.
and that's the heart of why Toronto is perfect. It's because of Ray and Kelly. Revolutionary Ray and Kelly. I don't know if anyone gets thrown in jail, it might be you two because you're Canadian, right? Us, it's just like, just get the hell out of here, you jokers. Now, you guys, we got to talk.
We've done stuff that we probably should have gone to to jail just like for, you know, pushing our boundaries and protests, but these are really nice here. Yeah.
No, and that's what I'm telling you. It's Canada. Canada's just like the most peaceful, loving, non-violent country ever, right? And well, you know, except for some very notable stuff. But anyway, I'm really talking out of both sides of my mouth. So, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. You know that there's something special about Canada, and it's very different from the United States. It's kind of like I wish Canada would invade the United States already. So, but we're going to do the opposite. It'll be a giant media thing, right? And we'll just design it, whether it's till or no till. We'll figure that out. I'm very encouraged by things James is saying, so it's kind of totally changing my paradigm. And you know, with elevated stuff and all that, so we could do it in a way that's like really neutral, right? Where nothing's getting dug up. You dig something up, and there's some violence in that. Let's face it. And we want this to be a nonviolent revolution, completely nonviolent. And so I think no till is probably the way to go, right? I love James, and then James could freaking do it. He's like, here's how we do it in Ireland, and Ireland's the world capital of potatoes, right? So I think the guy from Ireland knows what he's talking about, right? That kind of thing. I mean, like, we didn't just bring some American dude from Idaho. No. We went all the way to Ireland, that kind of thing. It's just like, whoa.
I just thought of a dimension that we could add to this. Because we're allowed to garden in the backyards already, make it a cultural thing that you grow for yourself in your backyard. In your front yard, you have a sign that says, help yourself.
That's it. And in fact, have
hanging over this fence, you just say, have a sign that says, help yourself.
No. And then listen, there could be just like a stop sign, red and green. If it's growing and it's not ready to pick, right? It's a red. It says, hey, hold on. And then when it's green, it's harvest time. Right? So because of the variety of crops, from winter kale to fruits to legumes, you name it, right? There's always something to pick. So it's like, you're hungry, take a walk down the street, right?
That's a great idea, Ray. And to be honest with you, it's something that I use as well here. Is I'm lucky enough to have a front and back garden. They're not very big, like, but they're as I said, you can grow a lot in a small space. But my back garden is, I suppose, I grow what's out in the back garden for myself. If I have surplus, I'll give it away, obviously. But what I'm growing in my front garden now this year, normally my front garden was an ornamental garden. It was grass and it was ornamental shrubbery and, flowers and rose bushes, what have you. But no, I'm still keeping it ornamental, but in amongst the ornamental garden, I'm in the lawn itself. I'm mostly part of the lawn. I'm growing vegetables there, and I'm doing it in the no-dig method. And my neighbours are looking at me stupid and asking me, what are you doing? Because the idea of planting potatoes here without digging the ground is actually a strange idea, because, it is a new idea to the ordinary person here anyway. But that's neither here nor there. The point is that not only am I showing my neighbours that it's easy to plant vegetables in your front garden without doing any digging necessarily, and get some crops. I'll be giving those vegetables to the elderly or those in my neighborhood that can do with it. You know what I mean? So rather than putting up a sign saying free food and have whoever come and take whatever they want and think, oh, free, I'm taking a bag full, whatever. No, I would know who's in my neighborhood who would be like another group of elderly people or whatever, or somebody who would benefit from it. So I'll give it to them.
That's
Just
such a hard
divide it up and give it to them.
think about free food, right? Because you can make money off food. Why would you give it away for free, right? Yeah.
But everybody can grow food for free, so why should you charge for it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I think Ray hit the nail on the head, because then one thing they could do is they could brand it a communist revolution.
Ooh,
Because it's, because we're making it free, no money, no profit, just giving it away. Everybody eats for free. That's it's communist. It's communist.
Well, they can call it communist, and we can call them paranoid, because all we have to say is, no, I just have a hobby, and I'm giving somebody a gift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Simple as that. There's no communism. There's no communism in having hobbies and giving people gifts.
Speaking of revolutions, mine's heating up right in here in the dining room, so I better go attend to it.
Well,
Otherwise, I'll be the victim of a
myself.
Revolution, not the perpetrator. Anyway, go ahead, James. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm going to go myself anyway, because it's really late here, and yeah, I'll catch you all anyway Friday. And nice talking to you, Ray. And sorry, didn't catch your name again. No. Kelly, sorry. And good night to all of you, and I'll talk to you all Friday.
All right, book your reservation to Toronto, James. This is happening. This is a go.
Better check the bylaws, make sure they haven't changed.
Yeah. In fact, if we have to pay a lobbyist to keep that law in the books for a few more weeks, we'll All right. Oh, whoops, that was recorded. Whoops. Okay. Anyway, carry on if you like. I just got to go, but everyone's welcome to stay as long as you like. I'll keep recording unless you ask me not to. If you don't want me to record, just either let me know or type it into the chat. Otherwise, the recording flows. This is too good. All right. Love you all. Thanks so much. Great to see you, Kelly, Ray, Uncle Frank, Emery, James. All right. That's my uncle. That's Uncle Frank there, PRSFTS. That's Uncle Frank. All right. Looking forward to seeing y'all. Thanks so much. All right. Take care. See ya. We'll see you all in Toronto at the birth of I'm serious, at the birth of the revolution. All right. Should I end it? I guess I'll just end it. Emery, how you doing? And Montreal's not that far from Toronto. You can do it in a day's drive. So I think we're cooking here. All righty. Well, great seeing everyone. I'm going to stop recording, and what an awesome meeting. All right. Go to radish.org for more details on upcoming Collective Intelligence Block Party and Solution Club, where we'll be developing this all further. Love you all. Take care. Have a great evening.